Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Williams and I am with Phoenix Rising Training and Development. Today I want to talk about zoning. I have had it with zoning. I am sick and tired of zoning, let's see how tightly we can zone this commodities industry so that it can barely get off the ground. Let's see what we can do. How hard can we make it, right? So it got sparked with an article from Green Theory. They have a newsletter in Bellevue, Washington. Tina and I went there on a research and development trip last October, and we had visited Bellevue, Washington, and visited Green Theory while we were there, and it was such a classy establishment, like so beautiful. Like you walk in and you just felt like you were in just an upscale boutique that was selling, I don't know, any different products. Not necessarily cannabis. It was gorgeous. So they were located, I guess, downtown-ish of Bellevue. It was more of a, I don't know, kind of a corporate area. Not a lot of residences around, but just more of a corporate, doctor's office kind of stuff. Not a lot of strip malls, around. And just a really, really nice store. You walked in, it was really classy, it was great. And you couldn't tell what it was from the outside. All you saw was a sign that said Green Theory. Okay, so now the city of Bellevue, Washington has decided to amend their zoning regulations. There is a public comment, I believe, tonight or tomorrow, that they want to amend their zoning regulations to now say that you can only have one cannabis retail store per quadrant of the 6 quadrants of downtown. And that's it. So that would mean that Green Theory would have to close their doors because they would be a duplicate store in that particular quadrant, or they would have to fight for that license. Or what a weird situation to all of a sudden put these business owners in, right? So not only that, but they now want to change it so that no marijuana retail store can be located from 100 feet of an R1 or R30 zoning, which are zoning areas that I guess back up to the downtown area. And so additionally making more restrictions, and these are affecting businesses that are already operating, have been operating for years, are operating in a upscale and professional manner, and yet now we're going to go ahead and close them. It makes no sense to me. I'm a free market capitalist. Okay, clearly the government is not a free market capitalist because clearly they think with morals. What would say, hey, you can only have this amount of businesses, one business per quadrant of this area because we're protecting what? Okay, cannabis retail stores have been shown to have the same retail footprint as a coffee shop, okay? But it's okay in Washington to have a Starbucks on every single corner, right? Same proven retail carbon footprint as a coffee shop. And yet we're still scared of cannabis retail stores, even in states that have had it for a while. So let's fast forward to now to, hey, Matanuska Borough. All right, so I am the chair of the Marijuana Advisory Committee for the Matanuska Borough. Everything I say in any of my videos is not a reflection of that position at all, but I state that to say that I have had experiences, and my experiences of serving on an advisory board of 17 members have been different, right? So 17 members, each of these members of this board were chosen because they applied through a board appointing process through a former mayor that was actually anti-marijuana. And he, even in my interview, he asked me 3 questions. The 3 questions were, do you believe in industrial hemp? 2 questions. Do you believe industrial hemp, and is there a time when you can see the trichomes? Can you see whether or not those trichomes will have THC in them? And those were the 2 questions to qualify me as an interested retailer on the Marijuana Advisory Committee. Odd, very odd situation, and so was appointed to that. In addition to 16 other people. And then in addition to that, they appointed 17 additional alternatives in the event that some people couldn't be there, then their alternative could show up in their place. 34 members was the size of this advisory board. Can you imagine how hard it was to get things done? Good times. So we had great discussion though, and each of these individuals were appointed to represent a segment of this 26,000 square miles of borough, of Matanuska Borough. And so each of these people were, some were representing the farming community, and some were representing cultivation, and some were representing the banking and finance, or schools, or public health and safety. There were different representations for that. I was in the interested retailer section because at the time we were set to open a retail store, and the Valley was going to be our home for that. And so I was appointed to that position, or I was elected as chair by the board, and then have served since April of 2016 or 2015. That's where we're at, 2015. And so the board itself came up with a conditional use permit. And the conditional use permit has a little bit of problems when it comes to zoning. One of the statements is that all marijuana establishments must be located 50 feet from a protected use. So protected uses are pretty standard, right? Churches, residences in this case, because the Matanuska Borough is very different. It doesn't have zoning, like typical zoning, where you have commercial. You can have a house with a massive auto mechanic shop in the back. There's no, there's no necessarily residential areas only. There are a few, but they're 26,000 square miles. There's a lot. And so, you end up with a situation where you have some pieces of the conditional use permit that say you must be located 50 feet away from any residence, lot line of any residence, schools, 1,000 feet away from schools, 500 feet away from rehabilitation centers, 500 feet away from churches, 500 feet away from recreational centers or recreational facilities. And I believe they added 500 feet from public parks, boats, and 500 feet from, I think that's it. Okay, so, but when it comes to lot line, this is where they've said that the measurement is from the closest corner of the facility that is closest to the protected land use, and a direct line measurement. Okay, so it doesn't matter if there's like a big wall in the way, it's a direct line measurement. So, that doesn't seem feasible, okay? Because what if there's a big fence that forces you to have to go all the way around, and, the issue here too is I've looked at two places. Now, what they also add for cultivation facilities on this particular conditional use permit is 50 feet from the public right-of-way, and then 100 feet from your side and rear lot lines. Okay? So your property that has this cultivation facility in it has to be 50 feet from the public right-of-way and 100 feet from a side or rear lot line. And that is the closest corner of the facility in a direct line measurement. Not realistic. Now, if you're building a property from the ground up, okay, fine, build it to these nifty specifications. But this borough is already built. It's unique in itself, and it's already got a ton of freaking properties already out there that people are finding they can't use because of these arbitrary numbers that I don't even think the MAC understood what 100 feet was and what that looked like as a whole. I'll be honest. It sounded reasonable. I didn't vote for the 100-foot setback. I didn't believe it was necessary. I don't believe these cultivation facilities are going to cause problems in our communities. Growing cannabis is not a violent activity. It's a very fun and loving activity. So then what it did too is they didn't quite accept limited cultivation facilities. So we have the same guidelines for a limited cultivation facility. I have a garage. I have a 1,200 square foot garage. I would love to be able to turn my garage into a limited cultivation facility, a home-based business, right? Because that's what the whole point of the license was in the first place, was to turn unregulated growers into regulated growers, right? People who did it from home into a regulated grower that tested their product and got it out to the legal market for a reasonable price, right? That was the point of the limited license. But now the Matanuska Borough says no. Unless you follow a 50-foot back from a public right-of-way and 100 feet from both sides, you cannot use your existing building. Even if you put a fence. Can't do that either. There's a problem with this guidelines. It's going to put people out of business. People that have been waiting this long through the moratorium, through the vote, through all of it, you're going to put them out of business now that they've been hemorrhaging money this whole time because they can't locate there because there needs to be a fence or whatever. Like, make variations for these people. That you cannot apply a standard as narrow as that to a space as big as the Matanuska Borough. It's just not possible. And to support the economy and to create jobs, right? 2.2 families a day, my friends, are coming to the Matanuska Valley. 2.2. Where are we going to employ them? We need the cannabis industry. Oh my gosh, we need it. There's no other industry popping up in the valley right now. We need a new one. We've got space. We've got people. Let's do it. However, with zoning regulations like the Matanuska Borough has, we've seriously got to change them. Now, personally, now that I've seen them in action when applied to specific properties, I now see how narrow they were. Absolutely. Absolutely. I am willing to admit my mistake at that point for going, okay, sure, that sounds good, but no one brought me an actual example of how that would affect their property. And now that I've seen two, I see that it's not realistic here in the Matanuska Borough. So, that's my vent for today's zoning. I'm sick and tired of zoning. These establishments are not going to pillage your country, people. They're going to help. I promise. Have a little faith. Okay? Have a little faith. Also, these establishments have highly regulated security plans. They have more security than your house does. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. So they're here to protect themselves as well. Give them an opportunity to do that. Give them an opportunity to flourish. Don't be scared of their building. No worries. Okay, there's my vent. You guys have a great day. Bye.